Dear Grace, 6:30 in the morning, so you know this is going to be a good one. Actually I read another book, Grace, See Below. This is also about heaven. This time it's a pastor's kid that visits heaven. Second book I read was about a pastor visiting heaven, now a pastor's kid. So clearly, if you're a pastor, you got some sort of inside track. So, new plan, Grace. Until you come and find me again, or until I bump into you on the street, give you the card I have for you, ask you to marry me, blah blah blah, you know that story. Till then, I need to make $500 a month. I figured the best way to do that is to become a pastor. I'm gonna have to fake it, of course, but that's easy. For sure Grok could design or give me content for an entire fake pastor website. But till then, till I can find a paying pastor job for $500 a month, maybe I'll get ordained online. Probably cost me $25. And then I'll create an online church, Dave's Church of Insanity. I still like the two cool popes idea, Grace. Until you show up, I can't do that one. Then I need to write something, so I'll do this alone. One small problem. I know nothing about the Bible. However, I'm going to fix that, Grace. I'll just write a sermon, and anytime I think it needs an inspirational quote, I'll just say, Grok, insert some inspirational quote from the Bible, and Grok will do that. That seems like cheating. I don't give a fuck. I didn't say I'd be a good pastor or an honest one. Grace. Plus I'm going for pastor instead of priest, Grace. It's actually a jalapeno cough, Grace. How can you tell the difference between a weed cough and a jalapeno cough? Well, hopefully you can't. Because if you can, then there's no point in me narrating my entire fucking life to you, Grace. Pardon the F word. Fuck that. I'm gonna be the pastor that swears. To be fair, if I'm Pastor Dave, and I'm starting off with 0 subscribers, might as well do it my way. Plus, I'm sitting on a shitload of material. Funny stuff. That'll weave into the old Fire and brimstone. What do you think, Grace? Grok, find an inspirational quote from the Bible based on that introduction to grace to open my first sermon. The thing about sermons is, oh, grace, they need to be alive. Well, that's fine. Maybe what I'll do is I'll write it, and I'll preach it live, and then I'll save it. Just like a good preacher would. There must be some online preachers. A big following and shit. Grok, find out if there's any online preachers with a big following that have no brick and mortar building. Alright, Grace. 6:42. Get back into the creative zone, otherwise known as sleep. Ready to wake up and be funny for no reason whatsoever. Alright, Grace, it's 10:30. Shit, shower, shave completed. Ready for my mission to the library to record the first episode of Pastor Dave, the Church of Comedy. So I decided when I woke up, I'll change it from the School of Comedy, which nobody gives a fuck about, to the Church of Comedy, which nobody will give a fuck about. However, what I might do is have Grok go back through the past Dear Grace episodes, find anything that's blasphemous, sinful, etc., etc. Just to be clear, Grace, now that we're going back to a new model, especially the Church Comedy. Churches don't do nothing for free, so we're going back to, this will be the last free episode for a while, and no more freeloaders, and $5 a month, the Church of Comedy, brought to you by the School of Comedy. Maybe we should check to see if the Church of Comedy at gmail.com is available, Grace. Right. You don't really have a sermon ready. I'm not going to study the Bible, but I need some content. So let's listen to Grace, My Future Wife, and Open Letter Part 1. I might just play
My future wife.
Oh God, I listened to my own fucking voice again. The good thing about being a pastor, Grace, which is better than open mic, better than spoken word, better than anything, is I can pause as much as I want in between my words and nobody can say a fucking thing, because that's just Pastor Dave style. That's who Pastor Dave is. Although this letter 2024. Two years ago. Not exactly, but close enough. Let's take a listen. I'm going to take some notes, Grace, and try not to stop this.
Letter, Part 1. February 11th, 2024. Dear, I'm sorry, we have not met. I don't know your name. As a placeholder, I will call you Grace. If your name is actually Grace, then it's a coincidence. I'm not a psychic. I like the concept of grace. It's why I like the name. Also, I have zero memory of anyone named.
Sorry, Grace. I am going to have to pause it once because I didn't get my notebook ready. You know I might be autistic, if.
Grace in my past. To me, the name is free of negative or positive association. I'll try again. February 11th, 2024. Dear Grace. Hello, my name is David, and this is my story. I was inspired by a YouTuber named Vagabond Rob to write this letter to you, somebody who will one day enter my life. Rob is a homeless Canadian man who documents his life daily on YouTube. I watch his channel and support him any way possible. Please note, if you, the reader, not Grace, have extra cash and feel like donating to Rob's situation, please do. However, I understand if you don't for whatever reason. Charity is a choice, not a requirement.
Pen ran out of ink. Or got cold.
It's difficult to summarize Rob's story. It's better if you listen to it in his own words, if you're interested. The reason I like and support Rob's channel is honesty. Rob is completely open in his videos. He uses limited jump cuts. He films right after any situation arises in his life, creating videos that clearly display the emotions he felt at the time. He's opening his heart and telling his story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. My goal is the same, but for different reasons. Rob telling his story could provide him an income from YouTube and a way off the streets. The more honest he is and the more followers he attracts, the greater the odds some will contribute, I understand. I don't need additional income. I would like extra money, but not by working for others, not even YouTube. I can't follow their rules or anyone's rules. I'm too old, and although I live a simple life, it's all I need and want. I live by my rules now, and one day I'll live by rules set jointly by you, my wife, and myself. What I would like is a wife / partner / whatever you want to label it. And my goal is to provide you all the information you may need to make that decision beforehand, before even meeting me. Rob is my inspiration to write honestly without unnecessary fluff and provide you with a history of my past. Although to be fair, there's nothing scandalous about my life. I'm not confessing to crimes here. Not yet. I'm telling my story to anyone who will listen, but I really only care about you, Grace. I want you to read this story, but I'll share this with others, as it's the only way to find you. It sounds heavy, it's not my intention. Although this letter isn't funny, I am at heart a comedian. I believe it's my job to make fun of every part of my life until both I and those listening find it hilarious. I'm not an actual comedian Grace. Well, I haven't gone on stage yet. I have my material prepared, and every day I feel more confident to get on stage, but I get to stand up. I'm ready in my mind. I have 7 venues lined up, one for every day of the week, but for some reason my body says, not yet. I'm not sure why. However, there's no rush. The world doesn't end if I don't do stand up tonight, but I really have no other interest in life currently. Maybe I'm addicted to the concept of performing on stage, not the actual action. I'm not sure, Grace. But once I do get on stage, I'll post any video I take here. I'll provide you with the same insight Rob provided. To his viewers. Until then, if you like to read or listen to my humor, please review any of the other posts on this site. They are all meant to be funny, but if you don't find them funny, I understand. I won't be offended if you stop reading now. If you prefer short form, my Twitter/X accounts are at Ricky's God and at Elon's God. Both accounts are intended to be satirical, but I suspect others find them confrontational, whatever that means. If you do find my sense of humor funny or at least tolerable, please continue reading. I like Rob's honesty, but also his consistency. He posts daily no matter what. A shitty day or a good day, it doesn't matter. Either way, his true story and true emotions are displayed. This is not an act, or if it is, he's one hell of an actor, and CBC should hire him. I'm not homeless like Rob. I was close a few years ago. I don't have to find odd jobs in Kijiji to eat and provide myself shelter. I don't have to write or publish anything. this site daily or otherwise. I have no obligations to my readers as I have no readers. I have no requirement to get up in the morning and get out of bed. I can stay asleep as long as I like every single fucking day. Rob cannot. I have no excuse for not writing and posting something/anything on Substack daily. None. I write in my head constantly from the moment I wake up until I eventually fall asleep. It's all I do, but I'm not sharing everything. I posted 6 movie ideas last year, but I wrote 12. The missing 6 didn't make my personal cut for quality. This was a mistake, Grace. Like Rob, I should have posted everything, regardless of perfection. I do admit my mistakes, Grace. Maybe not the day I realize my error, but eventually. This year I won't make the same mistake. I'll publish anything I find entertaining or important, including a continuation of this letter, no matter how long it gets. You're wondering why I don't need extra cash, Grace. It's not because I'm wealthy. I'm not. I live on what I receive from the Canadian pension plan. I turned 60 this year. It's not much, but it provides me with room and board in a shared house. For now, it will suffice. Like Rob's limited use of jump cuts, I'm not going to over-edit these posts, Grace. I'm not sure I can produce daily like Rob, but I have absolutely no excuse not to. If we do get married in the future, and I'm in this situation again, please kick me in the ass, Grace, and tell me to write. I just realized it's 3:45 p.m. and the open mic for today is at 4 p.m. I won't be going, but I think my first open mic will be at this location. It's the only place where the start time is before 8 p.m. And part of my problem getting on stage is I'm normally tired as fuck by then, and I don't want to go to sleep. And I do want to go to sleep. Or kill the night watching YouTube and Netflix. It doesn't matter. I have no excuse. I could have gone to the open mic first and wrote the second. I didn't. It's all good. I can wait until next week to embarrass myself on stage. In the spirit of Rob-inspired honesty, I should note, Grace, this was not my first plan to attract a wife. Originally, my plan was to perform, stand up, become good enough to get noticed, and then hope the woman of my dreams comes to me. A solid plan. However, I realized, although my comedy is based on my life, it's massaged to make me look good, even if I did something idiotic. All the jokes I write about myself are based on real events, but I remove the sad parts of those events, parts of the story I don't want to remember, or I'm embarrassed about. I have no reason to be embarrassed. If Rob can share his story, I can share mine. If I'm inspired by Rob's story, maybe I'll inspire someone else with my story. Or not. But if I don't share, I'll never know. So I'll share. And if my words are not perfect, so be it. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to edit the truth. Either way, thanks for listening, Grace.
I didn't realize I read that out in my own voice. Grace, I thought I was still doing electronic. I took some notes, but I don't think it's enough for a sermon. So let's listen to part 2 and go from there. Like, how fucking hard can it be to write a sermon, Grace? Especially if it's a made-up religion, which means you don't even have to follow the Bible. Or any religious document. Or maybe the Church of Comedy follows all religious documents. Just doesn't take any of them too seriously. That's a better way of looking at it. Cold out, Grace. None of my pens want to work. Should just go call this the world's most boring podcast.
To my future wife, an open letter, part 2. February 14th, 2024, 12:45 p.m. Dear Grace, today is Valentine's Day. However, I know nothing about you, so the concept of writing something romantic is odd. If I knew you, I would, but since I don't, anything I could possibly say would be generic and a pathetic attempt to attract the biggest audience. Also, I think all the holidays are bull. Shit. I'm okay with playing the game for the kids, but deep down you should understand my motivation. On the other hand, if I did know you and could write something that touched you, I would, today or any day of the year. However, I don't know you from Eve, so happy Valentine's Day, for whatever that's worth. I hope by next year on this day we are together, married, and if you're interested, with a baby on the way, assuming my junk still produces seed. How's that? Romance. Anyway, I added a time to these letters. It's important to me for research. I notice my creativity/incentive varies throughout the day. I'm looking for a pattern. 5:43 p.m. When I watch Rob's videos, Grace, I notice how close my day-to-day life is to his in some ways, but definitely not in others. Rob is surviving hourly, looking for work and making videos for people like me looking for inspiration. Below is a typical day in my life, Grace. It's similar to Rob's in that I normally go to the dollar store or library consistently. Different in that I have a place to go to when I'm done. I don't have to worry about where my next meal will come from. Plus, I can shower or use the washroom whenever I want. With my day, I wake up and wish I could go back to sleep for eternity. When I realize this is impossible, I review my options for the next 24 hours. My choices are the same every day. I can get up and write immediately, I can write later, or I can not write at all. This morning I woke up at 11:30 a.m., walked to 7-Eleven for an energy drink, woke up again, and began writing. I didn't get far, as you can see by the timestamp. In fact, after writing for about an hour, I stopped and watched some of Joe Rogan's interview with Will Storr, and then had a nap. Not very exciting, but also not a daily occurrence. Every day is different. Today I felt like writing earlier, but chose the nap. My choice. Who's going to stop me, and who cares? Do you care if I take a nap, Grace? I doubt it. I either like or need fresh air to wake up and feel like I'm part of this world. Rob sleeps near a highway and hears the noise all night long. He can't turn it off. I live beside a transit station, a roadway, the commercial train tracks, a river with tugboats, and a bridge that once a day someone has an accident driving over, and the entire fucking police force, fire department, and paramedics arrive with sirens blazing. Unlike Rob, I can turn it all off by closing my window. 80% noise, 80% less noise immediately, and other distractions like music or Netflix or even my fridge is enough to drown out the non-stop noise outside. That's not enough. I have the option of earplugs to remove the final 20% to live in perfect silence, which is how I sleep, with earplugs shoved deeply into my ears. If I lived in Rob's camp, I wouldn't want the silence. I'd want my brain to notice any noise other than traffic for my safety. I'm not sure if Rob does that or uses earplugs. I'll ask him on his next video and let you know, Grace. When I wake up in the morning/afternoon, I think just a few more hours. Then I listen. If I can hear the road noise through the earplugs with the window closed, I'm screwed. I'm awake. It's unlikely I'll get back to sleep. If I'm lucky and I don't hear the traffic, I quickly realize I have to use the washroom, which I do as fast as possible before attempting to return to sleep. However, I have options. I'm free to do as I please. Rob has a bit more stringent routine to maintain his daily survival. Based on his videos, Rob's routine seems to be get up, go to the gym to shower, then the library to send out resumes and recharge phone/battery, get supplies from the dollar store, return to camp. Maybe not in that exact order, but in general. I mentioned in my previous letter about nearly being homeless for a couple of years. I stayed with friends and family. It's difficult not to feel guilty for intruding or being in the way when someone has kindly offered you a couch to sleep on. In those situations, I get up early, I can barely sleep anyway, and head to the coffee shop or library for the day to write. In that environment, I was forcing myself to write by remaining out of the house as long as possible and intruding as little as possible. To be fair, the environment forced me to write more than I write now. Unfortunately, the writing seemed forced, unlike now. Maybe Grace, one day I'll share those words with you in private. Anyway, I think when I first moved into the place I'm living now, I continued that rush mentality. Wake up, shower, shave, and then almost run to Starbucks across the bridge, or take the train to the library. I shouldn't have said I was nearly homeless in my first letter, Grace. It's true, but it was by choice. I've worked full-time my entire life, either for myself or for others, but I've always been employed, never rich, but always comfortable enough to have a house, a car. Okay, there was a time in my 20s when I used EI, like Universal Basic Income, and spent my days photographing nature, but after my child graduated high school, and a few years before COVID, I traveled around Canada and the USA, mostly Canada. I had no fixed address. The few possessions I owned I either gave away or stored in my ex-wife's house. At the time, I worked for a software company from home, so I simply made my home the road and began traveling. They didn't know and they didn't care once they found out, as the whole company only met in person once a year anyways. It was a perfect scenario for a while, Grace. The Airbnbs were cheap and easy to book, and only slightly more than the rent I was paying for years. I started with the car, but eventually discovered everything I wanted to do in any city in Canada was accessible by foot or public transportation, and dumped the car, reduced all my belongings to one backpack, and continued to move. All my belongings still fit in one backpack, Grace. Someone called me a minimalist, but I have no philosophy. My current possessions are all I've had for years, and all I'll need for years. Except underwear. Overall, I crossed the country 3 times, once by car to deliver my offspring to university, once by via rail, and once by Greyhound. I'm rambling, Grace. The short story is the road was great, but only because I was working and could afford the same luxuries. To continue the lifestyle, I was forced to work, but at some point, I forgot when, it became less about the travel and more about the words. I wanted to write, but I wanted to write alone, free from the influence of others, including any form of boss. My solution was to trade in the stable, long-term income I currently had for part-time contract gigs that could dry up at any moment and leave me penniless. Did I mention I'm not rich and don't have any savings, Grace? What a catch, I know, especially on V-Day. I'm tired of this part of my story, Grace. I'll explain more another day. But needless to say, my plans did not go according to plan. Almost, but no. On a different note, one thing I did learn on the road was how to lose weight. Since this is as much a confession as a letter to you, Grace, I used to be fat, really fat. It was my choice to become fat. It wasn't glandular, or medication, or any of the countless excuses people use. I know why I ate too much or crappy food. It was my choice. At some point in my travels, I discovered keto and fasting. This was still when everyone thought your heart would instantly explode if you ate a tablespoon of butter or fat. This is clearly not true, Grace, as I've lost over 140 pounds in keto, and I ate a ton of fat, buckets of fat, Grace. To be precise, unflavored coconut oil was my primary source of calories. I only ate meat and cooked it in coconut oil, drenched. If you're a vegan, Grace, you may want to skip this part. Once I realized keto works, and once my doctor confirmed my blood work was normal after I ate nothing but meat and fat for 6 months, I went all in and didn't turn back until I dropped from 285 pounds to 160 pounds. Not only did it worked perfectly, Grace. I put some of the weight back on. I don't consider myself fat now, but I notice when my belly gets in the way. At some point in my keto journey, I stopped feeling hungry in the morning. I used this to push myself to fast longer and longer each day. I kept no food in my place. I kept no food in whatever place I was staying, same as I do now. I would wake up and work from the Airbnb or go to a coffee shop and write while pretending to work. And then at the end of the day, find a grocery store for my nightly meal/feast. Whatever I bought, I would consume that evening, even if I forced myself to eat too much. I'd rather be extra full and have the temptation to eat the leftovers in the morning or middle of the night. Eventually, I stopped feeling hungry in the evening. I was too lazy to go out and buy food and would skip a day of eating, then a couple of days, and then a week, and then finally a month. I didn't eat for a month, Grace. I felt great. However, I quickly learned that few people in my life understood why, or no matter how I tried to explain it, I couldn't. So I gave up and quit trying. I attempted to write a book about it, but I believe keto has been proven safe now. I know it still works for me. Anytime I feel my belt tightening, I spend a week or two on keto and don't have to buy new pants. I think if I was on the Serengeti and starving, forced fasting, the instinct would be to find a path to an animal I can kill or a plant I can eat. I noticed when fasting creates an intense desire not to find food, but to find a better path in life. I wasn't on the Serengeti. I had money. I could eat. I could end my fast any time by ordering a pizza. Nothing prevented me. But I think my brain went into survival mode, not for food, but for a career, the equivalent to food. I knew my existing employer wouldn't last a lifetime. I liked the paycheck, but disliked working for others. I always have. I could work for other people, but it's always the same. I could work for other people, but it's always the same ending. I quit. Or maybe I was delirious from not eating for weeks, Grace. Either way, it was clear to me I could not work for others the rest of my life. So I quit my job and through a series of choices was nearly homeless. I'm not. I'm fine now. I have CPP the rest of my life. End of story. Except you, Grace. Where are you? What are you doing? When will we meet? I've yet to explain my day, Grace, and now I'm over it. I'll try again in the next letter. So far, I think it's safe to say this is the worst dating profile ever. No photos, just a story about a broke old man with no prospects. Lucky you, Grace. On the other hand, if you get my sense of humor, then it doesn't matter. You'll understand. Thanks for reading, Grace. David.
Well, shit, Grace, that doesn't sound like me at all. Who the fuck was that guy 2 years ago? To be fair, if I read out words now, it'd probably still sound the same. Alright, here are my notes. Church of Comedy. COC. Cock. Church of Comedy. I made a note that I live in a house full of angels. I made a note. I think what I'll do, Grace, is go for a walk and talk. Practice a sermon there. See if I can get some fire and brimstone going. These are my notes from those two letters, which are better than I expected. I sound like an awkward person reading them. but I guess I didn't have my voice. I think a pastor is a good job because they're mic hogs, and there's no time limit. I mean, I guess the entire congregation is looking down their watches. Might be a hint for the pastor, but technically there's no time limit, and there shouldn't be. In fact, a good pastor should just go for 5 or 6 hours so people can just wander in and out, go into some sort of weird trance. And there's something about next week, and now it's 2 years later. Still haven't seen you. I can hear my own words. Or I can hear myself force my own words out. I don't want to read that, but I do. Grok, I want you to go through this transcript and insert in block quotes any sort of inspirational messages from any sort of religious document, from the Bible to whatever. Buddha's diary, who knows. Letters are romantic. Sad and pathetic, yes. Romantic, no. It's tough to listen to myself, especially when I sound like a different person. But that writing alone thing makes sense. Very awkward. If I was Grace, I would run as fast as I could, as far as I could. Call the police. All right, Grace. That's the end of sermon number 1. We'll call that a sermon, even though it really isn't. All it is, kind of, gives the congregation a background of who their new pastor is. And I didn't even have to write something new. Train. Here's a question, Grace. I don't think the congregation or the attendees, members, whatever. Let's call them members. They're paying $5 a month. That's like a membership. Anything over 500, I'll give away, Grace. By that first 500, going straight into my pocket. Straight to weed. after that, gift cards. Or if you don't want to encourage my weed habit, then just send the fucking gift cards, you cheap fucking goddamn son of a bitch and mother fucking freeloaders. Luckily, in the Church of Comedy, swearing's okay. Releasing emotions okay. As long as you do it with a touch of humor. Hopefully. Possibly. Maybe. Two cute Chinese babies so far, Grace. I would have punched you twice. I can spot those little fuckers a mile away. In the Church of Comedy, we don't look at our lives in the terms of sins. We do the opposite. We look at them in the terms of laughs. Are there other people making us laugh, or us making other people laugh? That's really the only number we care about and the only action we care about. Or maybe it's like a sin eraser. Every time the comedian gets on stage and makes other people laugh, he or she erases some of their past sins. Or if they're in the audience watching another comedian, or at home watching on YouTube and they're laughing, it's like a sin takeawayer. I think that's a hell of an idea, Grace. By the way, Pastor Dave is just a character, Grace. I don't actually think I'm a pastor. He's just the final character in the School of Comedy movie. And that's why I can move the site to Church Comedy. In the School of Comedy movie, there's a couple of loose ends that I still need to tie up, which is probably why nobody's bought it. Sure, there's no other reason whatsoever. Not a single fucking reason. That's Pastor Dave. When I finally get up on stage, Grace, in real life, I'll continue with these long pauses. I'll just look around, stare at the audience. That's what we're going to call them, audience, not congregation. 51 minutes. What do you think, Grace? Sit around for 9 minutes and see if any inspiration comes. I'm guessing at this stage, impatient people will probably just read the transcript even though it's fucking full of errors. And you, Grace, and a select few maybe listen to the audio, try and read between the lines. The problem with the concept of preacher is preaching. Generally standing up there and telling you what to do and not to do, either directly or indirectly. Don't fuck your neighbor's wife. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Unless you want a fucking black eye. It's finally cold enough for snow. And now the fucking rain has stopped. Fog's moved in. Not this very second, Grace, but overnight. All I want is the snow, even though the grass is green as fuck. Middle of January. Absolutely, perfectly green. And I don't even blame global warming. Grok, find me a list of the top 10 sermons ever. I need some sort of inspiration or some sort of template to base Pastor Dave on. Indian baby Grace. She's a cutie pie. Laugh is the anti-sin. Sin remover or anti-sin. Anti-sin combined with sin is sort of like antimatter combined with matter. You put the two together and there's a big explosion of energy. Alright, Grace, so this is how this fits into the School of Comedy movie. It fits perfectly because this is also how I can get my jokes for Jesus into the movie a little easier. And then my sermons for Jesus or whatever else, or Pastor Dave or blah blah blah. Anyways, this is how it ties in. Assuming you've read the School of Comedy, this will make sense. If you haven't, then read the School of Comedy. Oh, we got a crazy person at the library. Let's hope he has earbuds in. If I'm suddenly in a fight, Grace, this crazy person doesn't have... No, he's got an earbud in. That's alright. He needs to relax a bit, though. Weed is allowed in the School of... or the Church of Comedy and the School of Comedy. It's even encouraged for some. To be an honest pastor, Grace, I'm going to tell the audience that I'm using the money for weed. However, if they're generous, the rest of the money will go to the homeless. Sort of a teach a man to fish type thing deal, Grace. Weed and wings, that's all I really need, Grace. I could live on weed and wings. And coffee. Okay, this is how this ties into the School of Comedy. Dave is revisited by Morgan Freeman. Morgan says, Dave, you've done a good job. Here's the rest of the story. And then Morgan tells Dave the story of Dale Smith and how he's an accountant and how when he was 50 something happened. He woke up and found out he was Jesus. And for 10 years the Vatican's trying to For 10 years, the Vatican has been teaching him everything about the Bible, Jesus, and blah, blah, blah. And the Vatican wants to let the whole world know that Jesus has returned and put Dale Smith out on the Vatican Square, but they have a huge problem because Dale Smith was an accountant his entire life. He is so fucking boring. He talks in a monotone. Can't put any emotion into it. And even though he's in the Vatican, he still doesn't believe he's Jesus. He feels like he's just going through the motions, like it's a dream. So, because of this, Morgan Freeman speaks to David and says, you need to become Pastor Dave and speak for Jesus because he's a boring fucking accountant and nobody's ever gonna buy it. They need real life stories from real life people. Of course, Dave understands and agrees. And Morgan explains that he's not the only one. That basically every comedian on the planet has become a disciple for Dale. the most boringest man in the world. It takes hundreds and hundreds of comedians telling Dale's story just to make it ever so slightly interesting, when really what the comedians do is just tell their own story over top of his, which works. Because nobody's going to follow Dale Smith and the counting around as Jesus. It just doesn't work. Even tried putting him in robes, but he just looked like an idiot, Grace. And that's what Morgan Freeman told me. I don't know if that's true or not. So there you go, a sermon, and the next scene in the School of Comedy movie continued forever and ever and ever. The never-ending movie, the never-ending story, the never-ending podcast, the never-ending anything. The difference between me reading and speaking, Grace, is, I guess if I'm reading my own words, I buy them. I just don't like hearing my voice. And these words, they better sound fucking honest. If they don't, stop listening. Talk to you tomorrow, Grace.